telling the body it's no longer the mind, that you're the mind. And when you do that, those victories add up, and then all of a sudden, there's a liberation of energy. There goes the guilt, there goes the pain, there goes the whatever. It doesn't matter if it's health, it doesn't matter if it's wealth or success, it doesn't matter if it's a loving relationship, a change in a career, a mystical experience. Whatever it is, the person all of a sudden starts to relax into the present moment. 100 years ago, 150 years ago, it wasn't easy being human. I mean, you could die from all kinds of things, and famine and predators, and all of those things were important elements to keep us alive. And in fact, fear was really adaptive. You don't walk up to a lion and pet it. Something tells you instinctually to not do that, right? So that's very adaptive. And when stress becomes maladaptive, it's a different story, because when we react to someone or something that's in our lives, your reaction, whether it's a lion or your mother-in-law, doesn't matter to the body.
Yeah.
Because if it's a lion, for the most part, you're not going to go 20% in, you're not going to go 40%. If it's a lion, you're going to go 100% in, right? So, but if it's your mother-in-law and you're having the same response, what was once very adaptive becomes very maladaptive, right? So it turns out that, as I said, valid or justified, the only person that is actually hurting is you, because you're knocking your body out of homeostasis. You're knocking your body out of balance. Health is balance. Health is order. So let's see if we could drive this home really well. You have three types of stress: physical, chemical, and emotional. Physical stress is trauma, accidents, injuries, falls. Chemical stress is viruses, bacteria, blood sugar levels, hangovers, toxins, pesticides, pollutants. And then emotional stress is just your reaction to everyone and everything in your life. Well, 75 to 90% of a person that walks into a healthcare facility in the Western world walks in because of psychological and emotional stress. You could have the best diet. You could eat gluten-free, vegan, ketogenic, intermittent fasting with a little macrobiotics on the side, organic, all of that. Take all your vitamins, take all your supplements, all your herbs, drink your teas, do all of that. You could work out, you could run, you could do Pilates, you could do yoga, what doesn't matter. Get yourself chemically balanced, get yourself physically balanced. But if you haven't taken care of your responses to everyone and everything in your life, your cells, when you're living in fear and perfectionism and rigidity, the signal to the cell is there's a danger, there's a threat. And the cell is going to take the signal, and the cell is going to make a protein from a gene. And if you keep signaling the cell that there's danger in the environment, the cell is going to start to down-regulate a gene and make a cheaper protein. So then you could actually wind up creating organic fear proteins. That's what you're making, right? Because the body still isn't in a place to rest. So person can't sleep. Then they can't sleep. They can't restore. They can't digest. There's an emergency out there. How can you digest if your body's perceiving that the next moment there's going to be danger? Your immune system's dialed way down. There's no energy for long-term building projects. Everybody's attention is on the outer world. There's no homeland security. Everybody's out fighting the fight, right? So the reproductive system says, this is not a time to grow a baby. The brain, the blood flow goes to the hindbrain away from the forebrain. You stop thinking, you start reasoning, you start reacting to everyone and everything. Blood sends adrenaline and liquid energy to the muscles, but you're not fighting, you're not running, you're not hiding. Muscles get tight. It's just stored energy in there, and the body stays in that kind of maladaptive state, and that imbalance becomes the new balance, and now we're headed for some type of crash, some type of disorder, some type of disease. And when we're in that state, we're altered, and there's always a gap between the way things appear and the way things really are. And if we act during that period, we'll always say, I should have never said that. I should have never done that. I should have never sent that email. I should have never thought that. Because we're altered, and that's it. In survival, we're selfish. You got when you're getting chased by T-Rex, there's 3 things you're thinking about. My body, like, hey, I better take care of this. In my environment, where am I going to run, and how much time do I have to get there? The body, the environment, and time. So the stress hormones actually cause us to feel more like our bodies, pay more attention to objects and things in our environment, obsess about time. To change is to be greater than your body. To be greater than your environment, be greater than time. Stress is not a time to change. Stress is time to run, fight, and hide. And if you spend 70% of your day living in that state, there's no energy for a person to ever repair. There's no energy. And so the dysregulation that's happening in the autonomic nervous system, remember, stress is moving the body out of balance, right? So it's the autonomic nervous system that's mobilizing all that energy, right? And starts dysregulating because it could never catch up, right? So when we start creating brain and heart coherence, the autonomic nervous system is moving back towards regulation, is moving back towards order, and there's an innate capacity for the body to say the war is over. The trauma's done. Let's get back to growth and repair. Turns out the more coherent that autonomic nervous system is, the more regulated it is, the more information can travel to the cells and tissues and organs of the body with the proper cadence, with the proper signals, right? So the body starts up-regulating back to balance and back to health. And so autoimmune conditions tend to be one of those conditions that heal really fast in this work. Inflammation heals really fast in this work. Cancers do really well in this work. Neurological disorders do really well in this work because there's a lot more regulation that goes on. So if you can get your body more emotionally balanced and more physically balanced and more chemically balanced, then you'll be more resilient. So then the trauma, the thing that falls apart in your life, your response won't be the same because you're out of survival, right? And relaxed in the heart and awake in the brain is so much better than stressed out, unconscious, and living in a program. And that seems to be what's accepted as normal in the world.
Your brain is of 100 billion neurons, right? And there's networks that are all kind of wired together. So you have a network to speak a language. You have a network to move a body part. You have a network to see certain shapes and colors. They're all just individual networks. And so when you're living by the hormones of stress and you're reacting to something and your body's knocked out of balance, when you're in stress, you can't predict the next moment. You have the perception that things are going to get worse. You have the thought that you're losing control. And so what happens is these chemicals switch on so that you're in survival and you're mobilizing enormous amounts of energy to prepare yourself for whatever it is in the environment. Short term, it's cool. Everybody can handle that. All organisms can adapt to short-term stress. But if the stressors keep coming and you're trying to control and predict everything in your life and you're switching your attention from your cell phone to your problems, to your husband, to the shopping, to, another person or your boss, another thing. Every person, every object, everything, every place has a neurological network in your brain. So as the hormones are arousing your brain and you shift your attention, if you were to measure the brain when it's doing that, you have different networks that are firing out of order. And you measure that, it's like a group of people that have no rhythm playing the drums at the same time. Coherence. So when you're in a state like that, what happens mostly is you narrow your attention on the danger. You begin to focus on an object in your environment that's associated with that danger. So the stronger the emotion you feel from some reaction or condition in your life, the more you're going to pay attention to the cause. And if where you place
vision,
so where you place your attention is where you're placing your energy. So you're giving your power away to your boss, to your problem. So then what we've realized, and research shows it over and over again, that when you go from that kind of single-minded, narrow focus, that's only one type of focus, and all of a sudden you begin to expand your focus, you begin to open your awareness. You go from focusing on matter to focusing on energy, from focusing on the particle in quantum physics to focus on the wave. That when you begin to open your awareness and you focus on nothing, the moment you start sensing space, you're no longer thinking. And if you're no longer thinking, you're no longer analyzing. And if you're no longer analyzing, you're not activating those circuits in your brain. So your brain waves start to slow down. And the autonomic nervous system begins to merge. And the autonomic nervous system now wants to create order and wholeness and balance. And it says, Lisa's gone, Joe's gone, let's get in here and create order while they're gone, because what a mess. And all of a sudden it starts to synchronize different compartments in the brain. And what syncs together links together. And all of a sudden the brain starts functioning in a more holistic state. So we've seen in our work, when people start getting these different networks starting to synchronize, we can now predict what's going to happen. We can say, watch this. We can say to scientists that come and watch our work, watch what happens with this woman. Just keep watching. And all of a sudden, you see the right half of the brain talking to the left half of the brain. All of a sudden, these two hemispheres come together. And the union of polarity, the union of duality, the union of opposites is called wholeness, oneness. And the brain has this psychic union, and at the same time, the heart bursts wide open. Why? Because the person's feeling so whole, they no longer want anything. I mean, how could you want when you're whole? So now the heart is coherent, and it's sending more energy to the brain. The brain is coherent, it's sending more information to the body, and all of a sudden, a person's in a whole new state of being. So now, that was our research last year. Now this year, when we start seeing that level of coherence, all of a sudden now, we are going to levels of energy in the brain that have never been recorded in the history of neuroscience. That now the person is connecting to the field, and there are hundreds of standard deviations outside of normal in a brainwave state called gamma. Now they're super conscious, and not just one part of the brain. The entire brain is in this super conscious state, and whatever's going on between that person's ears is more real than this world we're sitting in right now. They're having a full-on sensory experience without their senses. Normal coherence, okay? Incoherence is like a group of people in an audience clapping at the end of a show. Normal brain coherence is like every five people clapping. Super coherence is when everybody's clapping in rhythm, and so that kind of order creates energy in the brain. So all of a sudden you see this scale of energy going up, and it keeps building and keep building. The person is having a mystical experience that is going to transform them forever. They're not going to be the same person. And so many times we see like health conditions disappear in 1 second, because they're getting a biological upgrade in that state. Why? Because experience enriches the brain, and the end product of an experience is an emotion. And now a new emotion is signaling the body, but it's not an emotion like chemical, it's electric.